Hi everyone, Okamo Otaku here. Thank you for joining me, and we're here to talk about Chainsaw Man, Volume 2. When you last saw me, we went over Volume 1. It was just our introductory arc where we met our main cast of characters, a few of the enemies that we're going to be addressing, and just got a few ground rules of the series established. I felt like it was one of the better introductory arcs to a series I've read or watched before. So very well handled by the author Tatsuki Fujimoto. Volume 2 is titled Chainsaw versus Bat, which is because we end Volume 1 right as the proper fight between Denji and the Bat Devil begins. The Bat Devil, who, if you forgot from my first review, is guilty of having eaten Power and her pet cat Meowie whole. Volume 2 covers chapters 8 through 16, and that covers the rest of the Bat Devil arc, and it goes into the upcoming Eternity Devil arc. And the arc note for this volume is I Love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by Tatsuki Fujimoto. The plot of this volume is really simple. We just follow Denji as he's in his fight against the Bat Devil, which he's only really doing because he was recently bequeathed a new gift, a new dream by Power, which is to touch a pair of boobs. So he's gonna put his life on the line to touch those boobs, and I imagine that there are a great many men out there who could relate to that sentiment. Anywho, before I get into the review proper, I just want to take a second to appreciate the art and the cover for this volume. It features Power holding a blood scythe, which is incredible. That's her whole thing. She's a fiend made by the Blood Devil, and her abilities allow her to create weapons and probably lots of other things, whatever she wants, more than likely, from blood. It's kind of dope. But the cover is just her holding up a scythe made of her blood. The background is kind of colored green with the title logo, and the author's name are pink with kind of a blood splatter texture, and the English translated title and the author's name are in green. It's a beautiful cover. I'm a big fan of it. But it doesn't really quite get across the brutality that this fight took. Actually, no, I'm mistaken. It got it across pretty clearly, because in Volume 1 there was a lot more blood and guts than there is in Volume 2 anyway, and so the Volume 1 cover was appropriately violent for that. This one was appropriate too. Anyway, so we only meet a few extra characters in this volume. We'll get into those later on, aside from our regular or our main cast. And so let's get into it. How about that? So we start with chapter 8. That's Chainsaw versus Bat. We're picking up from chapter 7, where Denji was hanging onto the back of the Bat Devil's leg, drinking his blood, trying to heal, so he's prepared to fight, and proceeded to cut his wing off and send them both crashing to the ground, which was a pretty all in all, given his options in the moment, was a great way of handling it. Especially because, he didn't really have a great handle on his abilities yet, and doesn't really know what he can and can't do. I thought that just jumping onto the flying fucking demon devil's leg to just, hang on with him and just deal with it that way was appropriate. And, well, particularly for this character, because, as I mentioned in my first volume review, Denji's a pretty simple character. He doesn't think too deep about a lot of things. At least that in the beginning. That changes throughout the series. I finished it, I know. But, he sends him crash to the ground, and then the Bat Devil asks him, "Well, why are you going so far to help people? Because there's civilians running around and shit like that." And Denji's trying to make sure that no one gets fucked up, and then he just rolls through him, driven by his goal to help to touch boobs. He doesn't even answer him. He just kind of goes. And so the Bat Devil responds to that assault by throwing a car at Denji, who in that moment, in a reaction to it, learns that he is able to retract his chainsaws into his arms or wherever they protrude from. Which was pretty interesting, and he proceeds to catch the car that was thrown at him. Now, the problem is that he proceeds to catch the car and then throw it back at the Bat Devil, which, seems like the right thing to do. Problem was, there was still a civilian inside the vehicle. That comes back up later on, too, so fun. And so, in response to having a car with a person thrown in it at him, the Bat Devil, unleashes this hypersonic sound attack that, decimates a building, behind Denji, and just, fucks him up. And so, it knocks Denji into the building. He's in the rubble, and the Bat Devil is about to proceed to eat the man who was in the car that they threw back and forth at each other like a fucking volleyball. But Denji comes out of the rubble and proceeds to saw the ever-loving shit out of the Bat Devil's flesh. It was satisfying, because the Bat Devil, he was a dick. You hear me? He was a dick. I didn't like him. He was just a dick. My least favorite thing he did was, well, besides eating Power and Meowie after, she fulfilled her very fucked up contract with him, is that when he was flying away and getting ready to go and eat more humans, he was like listing off the specific types of humans that he wanted to eat. He was like a pregnant woman, a child, a fat man, which fat man, oh god, I should watch the fuck out. But so we end there with Denji like fucking him up. And so we move on to chapter 9, which is titled Rescue. And in chapter 9, we open up to a flashback from Power that's kind of basically showing us how she met Meowie and how she ended up losing Meowie to the Bat Devil in the first place. Sad, I won't get into the specifics of it. It's not super important, but it's important enough. It's character building shit, right? And then she wakes up from the flashback, at which point she finds Denji standing over her and, having cut the Bat Demon's stomach open, has saved both her and her cat Meowie. And she asks him why. And Denji just looks at her and just points at her chest. And she's like, oh, okay. She agrees to let him touch her boobs. Not in this moment, but she says in the moment she's going to agree to let him do it. They celebrate for a little bit right before that, and then suddenly Denji's arm is like blasted off because the Leech Devil, who is the girlfriend of the Bat Devil, shows up and is pissed. Like, she's mad. But she thinks that Denji is cute. So she agrees to let Denji go, but only kill Power and Meowie. But of course, Denji still gotta touch those boobs. Let's fight. And we end the chapter there. So from there, we move on to chapter 10, which is titled Kon. K-O-N, which made me think of, if I'm not mistaken, that was the name of the little plushie that Ichigo would use in Bleach to transfer his soul to... I forget the way he used Kon. I think, Kon would like go into his body and take care of his body when he was out doing Soul Reaper shit. But anyway, that was the name of chapter 10, in which Denji finds himself getting his ass beat by the Leech Devil. And it's funny because, like, she's beating his ass pretty casually, and the entire time she's just bitching about the fact that she will now not be able to eat all the humans on Earth with the Bat Devil. It's funny because she even says in the moment, she's like, well, that was never really possible anyway, but now I really can't do it. It was great. It was actually, it's not, the series is not comedy on its face, but it's got so many moments of, like, just little comedic one-liners and, like, scenes that are just great. It's wonderful. But they're going back and forward, and she's going back and forth fighting Denji, and they manage to stab each other. She stabs him with her tongue through his chest, and he stabs her with his chainsaw through the head, which was great, but it didn't really do much because the tongue is a lot longer and a lot more effective, and so she's kind of hoisting Denji up and getting ready to eat him, but then Aki shows up, and he uses his Fox Devil, which he kind of manipulates by doing like a shadow puppet kind of thing. There was no shadow involved, but he was like, boom, calm. And like he uses a Fox Devil when he does that, and so his Fox Devil just kind of like ups its whole head and just eats the Leech Devil whole, leaves Denji fine, which is great. But it was wild, and he didn't show up alone. He showed up with a lady named Himino, who is his superior, a young lady named Kobeni Higashima, who is a new devil hunter, and Hirokazu Arai, who is also a new devil hunter. He's a man. Collectively, they get Denji and Power and Meowie to like the various medical treatments and vets and shit and things that they need, and everything ended well, you know? And so then we move on to chapter 11. Chapter 11, Denji wakes up in the hospital where Aki explains to him how devil healing works, which he already knew because he was drinking. I'm not sure if he knew properly. I think he figured it out from watching the bat, because what happened, okay, so I was trying to avoid going too in depth about what happened, but when they arrive to the place where the Bat Devil is, Power serves him up, after knocking him out or whatever she did to him. She serves him up on a platter, and the Bat Devil goes to drink some of Denji's blood. Now, he complains about the taste of Denji's blood, which is because Denji's a hybrid now, but even still complaining about the taste of it, he was able to use that to regenerate an arm that had been decapitated. And so I'm assuming that Denji watched that and learned that that's how devils do it, because that was the point of him having drank the Bat Devil's blood in the first place, and hanging onto his leg, was to heal his own wounds, which he got because the Bat Devil literally picked him up and squeezed the blood out of him. It was fucking gnarly. I'm not gonna hold it. It was a lot, girl. But he also explains how devil hunters fight by making contracts with various devils in which they have to exchange something in order to get power. He explains that to use his Fox Devil, he has to sacrifice at least in this particular instance, he had to sacrifice like all the skin on his like forearm. You see it wrapped in bandages and shit. And the reason he's explaining that they have to make contracts with devils in order to fight is because he said something derogatory about devils to Denji, and then Denji was like, "But I saw you talking to a devil," because he was, of course, talking to the fox devil. And that's when he goes to explain that was because of this and that. So Aki wonders why Denji tried to help Power after she betrayed him, because he is aware of it, but he doesn't have any proof of it. He's only aware because he found Denji's blood all over the place where they tracked the two of them down to. And of course, Denji is a good guy, so he was like, "No, she didn't betray me. That wasn't what it was." And then so since he does that, he's like, "Okay, fine," because he knows what's up. He's just like, "Fine, I can't just like assume that's what happened. I know that's what happened. I can't I have proof of it." So he tells him, "Listen, you're gonna have to obey all my commands, or I'm gonna use this event to get you and Power killed, because y'all are devils, and I can't have y'all doing this shit." And so after that, Denji kind of begrudgingly agrees to it. He really only wants to do what what's the lady's name? Makami, Makima. He only really wants to do what Makima says, but he concedes. He don't want to die. So Aki leaves the room, and he tells Himeno that they're gonna let Power go. And she wonders about that. She's like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yes, it's fine. She's not gonna run away, and her only purpose is to be a tool for us devil hunters," which is fucked up. Aki has a very negative opinion on all devils and fiends and everything related to them, at least at the very beginning of the series. It's a shonen, so being in close quarters with two demons is going to change him eventually, but not right now. Right now, he hates these hoes. They all need to die, according to him. But later, Makima has Power move into the same apartment with Denji and Aki, and she promptly begins to cause havoc, because unlike Denji, she's not a half demon. She's a half. I keep saying demon. They're devils. She's not a half devil. She's a fiend, which is a devil that possessed a dead body. Anyway, so we move on from there, and we go to chapter 12, which is titled Squeeze. Power reveals that she was not planning to keep her promise to Denji, but she allows Denji his 3 squeezes. One for saving Meowie, one for killing the Bat Devil, and one for lying to Aki about betraying him, which, saved both of their lives, effectively. And so Denji takes his squeeze, and the first squeeze, a breast cup falls out. And he looks down, and he's like, his face is giving very disgusted, and so Power looks down at it, and she just explains what it is, and they cut back to her, and her chest, which was pretty big at first because of the breast cups, has gone flat, and then she's just looking like, but he still takes his 2 more squeezes. Of course he does. So it was super disappointing to him, and it left him feeling pretty empty. He spends most of the rest of the chapter kind of walking around, being dejected, eating meals dejected, just kind of like going through one of those dejected movie romance monologues, right? Montage is the word I meant. And so later on, he runs into Makima, and she sees what's up, and she uses that feeling of disappointment about the situation to manipulate him into doing a deed for her. But before, she takes the time to the way she chose to manipulate him was whew, whew. First, she walks up to him. She's kind of like giving him the "oh yeah, I'ma fuck you" eyes that she seems to routinely keep on at all times. And she she takes his hand, and touches her own breast with them. And then she takes his fingers and is licking his fingers and biting his finger. It's a whole erotic thing. And then she hits him with the whammy after he's all over her and shit. She's like, "So I need you to do me a favor. She tells him about the gun devil, and then she asks him to defeat it. Honey, the gun devil is powerful and feared by everybody. Feared by everybody, and they're going to get into that in the next chapter. But Denji, who really just wants to eat his 3 meals a day, have somewhere to sleep, he agrees to it because she says that if he does it, she'll grant him any one wish that he wants. And spoiler alert, it's not flat out said, but Denji wants to fuck. So far he's been dealing with porn magazines, he's touching boobs, he's thinking about girls, trying to get kissed. Denji wants to fuck. That's what Denji wants. So, and with that, we end the chapter. And that also concludes the end of the Bat Devil arc. And we move on into chapter 13, which is the beginning chapter of the Eternity Devil arc, titled Gun Devil. Now, this was the chapter. I have a couple TikTok videos up about this and chapter 14, because this was the chapter I knew that I was going to be here for this series. Disney was shocked about the offer, but she explains what's up, and he asked about the gun devil. So she explains that it showed up randomly 13 years ago, and it was due to the fear of guns in the world, and so it fucked up a whole lot of shit all over the world in about 5 minutes. Like millions died. They even give us like super specific details where they go through like a few different countries. I think it was like America, India, China, the Soviet Union, Mexico, Canada, and it tells us how long the gun devil was in each area and how much damage, how many lives it took while it was in said area. In fact, I'm gonna take a moment here to pull up that chapter. I found the chapter, pulled it up here for reference. Now, mind you, this backstory about the gun devil is paired with a flashback from Aki, because on the day the gun devil appeared, Aki lost his brother and his entire family, and he blames himself for it. I won't get into it, but he has a sickly younger brother. They're playing outside. The little brother went home went into the house to like get play equipment or some shit, and right as he touches the door, the gun devil's like energy wave flies through and just decimates everything. The artwork is beautiful. The sentiment was awful. But it was November 18th at 10 a.m. The gun devil hit Japan for 26 seconds and killed 58,000 people. He hit the United States for 124 seconds, which resulted in 549,000 deaths. China for 37 seconds, 316,000 deaths. Canada for 7 seconds, resulting in 8,000 deaths. The Soviet Union for 210 seconds, resulting in 155,000 deaths. He hit Hawaii for zero point 0.4 seconds and killed 780 people. He hit Mexico for 2 seconds and 2 seconds and killed 6,000 people, and they say he hit India for 15 seconds and killed 30,000 people. So suffice to say, in about 5 minutes, the gun devil killed almost 1.2 million people worldwide and then disappeared. Never have been seen since. Fucking terrifying backstory. You know what I'm saying? Like, the artwork for all of it was great. Like, he just kind of showed up and left a empty wasteland hellscape everywhere. It was wild, honestly. I can't wait to see it animated. So Maki then goes on to reiterate that the gun devil has not been seen since that incident, but that pieces of his flesh were left behind. As residue, kind of like if you're familiar with the series Jujutsu Kaisen, it's kind of like Sukuna's fingers. They operate in the same way. So the pieces that were left behind, they home in on each other, and if the pieces that you collect are enough, they home in on the gun devil. In addition to that, if lesser devils consume a piece of the gun devil, they gain more power, much like Sukuna in Sukuna, whatever how you say his name, in Jujutsu Kaisen with his 20 fingers, and if you eat one of his fingers, you get powerful or you die if you're human, or if you're a demon in their series, or curse in that series, they're called curses. Girl, demons, demon slayer, curses, Jujutsu Kaisen, devils for Chainsaw Man, so many words. I'm gonna just start calling them modules or some shit. No, I'm not. So they give us all those details, and we learn all about that. And later on, she sends our main trio out with a few other people, the names I mentioned earlier, Himeno, Arai, and other girl who I don't really like through the series, but we don't get into that right now. She sends them on a mission to a hotel, the Hotel Morin, to defeat a devil that has consumed some of the gun devil's flesh. And as I mentioned earlier, this chapter was the one that sealed it for me. I knew that I was in after having read the gun devil's backstory. 1.2 million people worldwide in a course of about 5 minutes. Fucking wild. Like, the art for it is great. Like, it was great. Hats off to you, Mr. Fujimoto. Hats off to you. And so we go from there, and we move on into chapter 14, which is titled French Kiss. Oh yeah, baby, we're here. And it opens with some casual talking amongst the group over concerns about the newbie hunters and devil hunters working on this mission. We get some, like, the new human devil hunters that came with Himeno are questioning Aki about power and Denji, because they're like, are we sure we can trust them? They're like, fair questions, fair questions. Power has shown herself to be quite unhinged, and Denji, he's a scrub effectively. I mean, he's Chainsaw Man, but he's only 16 years old, so like it's like, girl, you're strong, but what are you? And so, in order to get the group motivated, Himeno offers a kiss on the cheek to the MVP of this mission, whoever manages to finish the mission, because she's an oddball. They go on to really paint a great picture of her over the course of the series as an oddball. My God. Um, and so Denji refuses that offer because the offer was primarily to motivate them because they, as Aki makes clear in the chapter, they want Denji and Power to go in first so they can be like, you know, the vanguard, and also if anything goes wrong, they might die first. So fucked up, but good strategy. We're humans, so gotta get that. But Denji turns that offer down because he only wants to kiss Makima, his sweet, beloved Makima, right? So sweet. And so they move to the hotel and they're kind of bickering. Oh, I'm sorry. He turns the offer down because he wants to kiss Makima, and so in rebuttal to that, Himeno changes the reward to a French kiss, which, as you can imagine, sends our boy right on down that hallway. He's like, oh, French kiss, let's do it with tongue, let's do it. So they're moving to the hotel, and they're all kind of like bickering and fighting with each other. Mostly Arai and Denji, because Arai seems to like Himeno and was not a fan for offering up a kiss for a reward. But fuck him, he's a screw up. Like, get bitches. And so Himeno tells Aki not to die, and we get a flashback about how they met. She was at a funeral for one of her previous partners, and she explains that all 6 of her previous partners up to that point died in the line of duty, and she was, you know, really sad about it. And then, so after her flashback, we come back to the present, and a room door opens, and this little demonic creature walks out. It's a human-esque head with like hands for feet attached to it, and it's just kind of like walking out of the room, just kind of like doing this thing. It was fucking freaky. I ain't gonna hold you. But that was the end of the chapter. You know, a devil has shown up, so it's on now, right? So chapter 15 is titled Endless Eighth Floor. Now, this is a great chapter for me because something that this author does, that the author of this series, Tatsuki Fujimoto, does really well is set the tone for various chapters really well. At this point of the series, I was still kind of blitzkrieging through, like really moving through, but and so I didn't really absorb that to the tension of this scene, of this arc, the way that I should have. I appreciate it in hindsight, but I didn't really absorb it on my first read through like I should have. I didn't really appreciate his ability to inject that kind of horror movie tension into his manga panels. That didn't really become clear to me how good he was at that until I made it to volume 6, and I was reading about the villain of that arc, because the villain of volume 6 really had my flesh crawling the entire time. Not because she was creepy or anything. I gave away, but not because they were creepy or anything, but because they just made everything seem really fucking hopeless. Like, and the drawings for we'll get there. Volume 6, we'll get there. Stay tuned, honey. Anyway, so we're on Endless Eighth Floor, and we're on chapter 15, Endless Eighth Floor, and so the devil that just walked out, it attacks Kobeni and Himeno uses her ghost devil, which she has a contract with the ghost devil. She gave her right eye to use the right arm of the ghost devil. Be honest with you, it doesn't seem like the best trade-off to me, but they take a few panels to explain why it's a good trade-off. For one, the ghost devil arm she has can grip and grab things in the physical world, but it can't be gripped or grabbed by things in the physical world. So she chokes up Power with it, I think. Like, she grabs Power by the throat, and Power's kind of like trying to grab it and get it off of her, but it's like moving right through it because she can't touch it. So, giving them my right eye, you know, she wears a sick ass eye patch now with a big choice. I mean, a big price to get that, but it seems like a pretty useful power. So whatever. And so, while she's holding the devil down and explaining the terms of her contract, Power makes a blood sword and cuts the devil in half. And so it dies, and they move on. Afterwards, Power threatens Kobeni, because Kobeni was kind of a bitch, and then Himeno threatens Power, because Himeno's in charge here, and she's like, bitch, don't threaten my people. Alright? Alright. Alright. And so, they soon notice that whether they go up or down the stairs, they always come back to the 8th floor on a loop. Endless 8th floor. That's why it's called that. And so the group sits down for a second, and they consider that maybe killing the small creature that they just encountered sprung a trap that has now caught them in this loop. and it's fucked up, but whatever. And then Kobeni, while they're sitting around talking about it, Kobeni, who I'm not really sure how I feel about her at this point, but she goes on to explain that, you know, she's terrified. Her character is one of those scaredy cat bitches, so she explains that she's like that because she didn't really want to do this job. She's only here because her parents are making her work. Her parents make her work to help support her brother, so he can go to school and like live his dreams or whatever. And she said that her only job choices were to be a prostitute or to do this, which quite frankly, I can't see that those are your only choices in Japan, but whatever, girl. We're gonna move on. And Power laughs at this, and she's like, "Oh, bitch, you what?" And Himeno, Himeno. I've been saying Himeno. We're gonna keep saying Himeno. She decides to go and comfort, you know, the girl a little bit and trying to make her feel a little better or whatever. And then while all this bullshit going on, Aki, who is still like he's our Sasuke of the series, so he's like keeping it locked on. He's focused. He notices that all the clocks in the building are stuck on 8:18, and that the floor is likely frozen in time, which means they can't escape and they can't be rescued. Fucking terrifying. Like that panel when he said that, and like if I remember correctly, they had a really nice overhead shot of the entire group while he said that, and it was another one of those moments where like that dread of this entire arc like kind of started to settle in, because it's a really freaky ass arc. It takes place in what is essentially a haunted hotel, and like the further they go in this motherfucker, the more haunted and creepy it gets. So after Aoki explains that to the group, and they kind of like settle on they start to circle the drain on the idea that they won't be rescued or be able to escape, then just like, oh, okay, and he just lays down and takes a nap, which shocks the entire group. Shocked me too. I was surprised. I was like, nigga, in this situation, that's what you want to do? But it was very shonen character. I could see Goku doing that. I could see Luffy doing that. I couldn't see Naruto doing that. We didn't see Naruto sleeping too much. He stayed up, so it was cool. But that ends that chapter. And so then we move on to chapter 16, which is going to be the end of volume 2, and it's titled First Taste. And in this chapter, Arai and Kobeni show themselves to be wimps because Kobeni started to freak out, and so Himeno knocked her out and put her into a bed, and then Arai just went and locked himself into a room because he was also freaking out over the fact that we're stuck in the hotel. Which, to be fair, they're devil hunters, and they should have a bit more composure, but they're new devil hunters, and also this is a fucked up situation, so they should be allowed to freak the fuck out. I'm just saying. And so, Aki is still kind of running around hunting, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, while Himeno, Denji, and Power just kind of hang out near the rooms where the other two are like knocked out. And then Himeno, she takes a cigarette out and smoking, and then she reveals, through a flashback, that she intentionally gave Aki a cigarette addiction. She convinced him to start smoking, gave him an addiction, because she feels like the people in this line of work, they don't. She did it for two reasons. She feels like, one, the people in their line of work as devil hunters, they don't live very long, so it doesn't really matter if you smoke cigarettes, which is a similar logic that they use in Jujutsu Kaisen, that the people who do this job, they don't really last very long, and so, do what you want to do, just do the job. And also, she says that because of the nature of the job, whether you last or not, you're going to need something to take the edge off. And so, that's what she likes to do, and she, in the flashback, she convinces Aki to take a cigarette, until she realizes he's a minor, and she's like, I'll give it back to you later on. Afterwards, Aki comes back, and he reveals that he found the Eternity Devil finally. But instead of it being just the little small thing that Power cut in half earlier in the arc, it is turned into a gigantic eldritch horror wall of flesh. It is a drawing for you, bitch. The devil then offers the group a contract. He says that he'll let everyone leave. He'll stop the trap now, and they can all leave the hotel safe and sound if they agree to give Denji up. So he wants to kill Denji. He wants to take Denji's heart, and he says that he'll if they let him do that, he'll let the rest of the group go. And so, after he says that, suddenly the Kobeni bitch, who Himeno had to knock out because she was freaking out, she wakes up and comes to the door behind them holding a knife, saying that they should take the deal. Not saying that they should take the deal, but kind of really demanding that they take the deal. Essentially saying, fuck Denji, I want to get out of here. Give the nigga up. It was fucked up, and it's part of the reason why I'm not sure if I like her. I get that you knew and you scared, girl, but you know what you signed up for. But anyway, so that's how we end the chapter there. We confront the devil, and Kobeni shows up ready to take his contract to kill Denji so that they can all go free. And with that, we end volume 2, and then we'll get into the next volume with my next video. But this is a great volume. You know, after going through volume 1 and getting all the initial setup for everything, and you know, some of the premiere, some of the beginning world building, this one was great for me. We finished our first real fight in this volume. We got an introduction to what I at this point understood to be the final villain of the series, the Gun Devil. We get an introduction to, but you know, we were given information on, or rather, you know, a flashback about things, which was again, that was chapter 13, and it was certainly the chapter that sold me on the series for sure, for sure. And you know, then we moved into a fresh new arc, the Eternity Devil arc, where we got our first little group mission, our first official mission, group mission, and we're gonna we're gonna see how this goes. And so this volume ended, but the fight is just about to begin. And if you want to know how that goes, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for coming here. Tune in next time.